Hello everyone, my name is Veritas and welcome back to Destiny 2's beta. So, you might have seen the previous two videos. We ran through the Homecoming story mission and then the Inverted Spire strike on Nessus, and both of those videos were technically cooperative, you know, talking to Cat in the background. The strike more so because we were actually in it together. The Homecoming story mission was more just like getting warmed up for the rest of the game. But it didn't really give me any time to talk to you guys directly or give my own thoughts and speak freely on what I think of the beta, so I figured while the farm social space is open on the final day of the beta right now for about an hour, I figured I'd jump into the farm, look around, and while I'm doing so, it should be mindless enough for me to be able to talk to you about my thoughts on the beta, give my feedback, and just kind of tell you guys what I think about it. So, overall, I loved the story mission. I think it was really nice. The length of it was really good, you know, how much was going on with it was really good. People are saying that they like how involved it was, you know, how much story was there, you know, saying that it had more story than the first campaign, like the first entirety of Destiny 1, which is funny. But this is the farm social space. Let's talk about this real quick since, you know, we're here now. Let's talk about what's going on here. I don't know what kind of nonsense people are doing here. I just plugged some headphones in so I could hear what's going on, but there's some ambient nighttime music, and it's interesting. I like the juxtaposition here, or like the contradiction between where we came from and where we are now, because like the tower was such like a regal establishment. It was so like it was so, you know, top of the world. You are like this god among other men, and it made it so that you always felt like you were as strong as you could possibly be. And then now we're here in what's like. We're in like Until Dawn, and it's just the backwoods, some shacks, and like a little river and a freaking soccer ball, and you're like, you are not strong anymore, you know, you're not this big badass anymore. It makes you, it puts you into perspective, and that looks like what is a shard of the Traveler over there in the distance. I'm curious to see what this is going to be like. But anyway, so I wanted to talk about Homecoming and the Inverted Spire strike while we had some time, and the beta overall, because we actually have time to talk now. So the Homecoming story mission, like I was saying, it was fun. It was good. I liked, you know, how much time they took with it, how much care they gave it. It's a good indication of what we're gonna expect for the rest of the strike. It's weird seeing like these fancy screened TVs in like a shack. It's very strange. But like I said, the Homecoming story mission overall was pretty good. I have very little to say about it because it's just, I don't know, campaign missions. I'm a lore and story guy, but campaigns I've always just kind of been like, yeah, they're the campaign. They're supposed to be like that. So I want to talk about Inverted Spire a little bit more than Homecoming. So Inverted Spire, if you haven't played it, hopefully you've played it before the end of today. But Inverted Spire is the available Vexy strike on Nessus, and it's really good. Actually, I like it a lot. I made mention in the video that it felt like it was almost the length of a raid. It felt really long, which I did enjoy. I liked how involved it was. Over the weekend, I had, you know, gone in with different teams. This is scary. Am I actually... Oh, I can't actually go down here. Okay. That scared me. I'd actually run through it a few times with different teams, and eventually found, like, you know, run-through routes and strats for getting through the strike faster, where you can rush through it. Areas you can skip completely and the enemies don't actually matter, things like that, and that was kind of unfortunate to find out that they hadn't, you know, really made any differences there, any changes there. But I did explore the planet of Nessus at the spawn point of the strike. You know, in fact, I was figuring out like the public event type deal that was going on over there, where there's the quantum hobgoblins that spawn with the teleporters, and then eventually like 3 storm minotaurs spawn at each of the teleporter locations, and, you know, dealing with that. I figured that out and then had Cat help me, and we went through and killed all the Storm Minotaurs, and nothing happened. I'm assuming that's a public event in the full release game. But things like that, it was really fun to just explore a new planet, having someplace new to go and, like, discover little nooks and crannies, like where could they hide something, where could, you know, a secret be hidden, you know, what does this weird portal thing do, etc. But all in all, the strike itself, going through it, since that's what we're actually talking about here, not just Nessus, but the strike was fun. I like the variance of Cabal types. I like that every enemy type seems to have every energy type, and they're calling elemental things energies now. I do like that everything has an energy type. So if you're using something like this SMG on my back, the Risk Runner, where taking arc damage gives you basically a god weapon, it's nice to be able to know that you're going to be able to use that pretty much against every enemy type. Prior, Vex never had anything arc damage. From my memory, I don't think Vex ever used arc damage. Much like how most Fallen never used Void, except for like Servitors. A lot of the times you could kind of guess that if you were fighting like Cabal, you were going to be shot with solar energy, and that's pretty much it. You were never going to get shot with anything other than solar energy. So you could kind of build your character around the idea of that. Now, it's kind of all jumbled up. You've got some Cabal that can shoot like a Void mortar. You've got some that shoot like the slug rifles are now like a triple burst, arc cannon. You've got things with like every energy type is used by every race, which is really, really nice, actually. Oh, look, it's Eververse. Good. This didn't go away. Fantastic. What are you doing back here? What are you doing back here hiding? What are you doing back here hiding in Eververse? Trying to steal from Eververse? Jesus. So it's nice to see that every enemy type can shoot every energy type, because it makes it so you don't ever feel like you're screwed out of whatever your build is. Like, if you are really good against arc damage, you can find something in everything you're fighting that uses arc damage. And I like that a lot. I was noticing that going through the strike, the boss, Protheon Modular Mind, aside from him switching between element type or energy types, he also switches colors, which gives you a really good indication of what you can expect to fight against, which it took me way too long to figure that out, and when I did, I was very happy about it. Kind of disappointed, kind of happy about it, because the idea behind his coloration I thought was more dependent on what programming directive of Vex he was, as opposed to what energy he was channeling. But that, in and of itself, is a simple game mechanic that will help people that might not be the smartest people in the room. We'll help them figure out, like, oh, he's very red. I wonder if he's shooting solar damage, that kind of thing. So that's good in terms of, like, a quick glance and getting an idea of what your enemy is using against you, so you can kind of build yourself around that. It's a good, quick glance, instead of having to, like, get shot by, the boss and be like, oh, that's those bullets do solar damage, because sometimes, not every time a bullet or energy blast in Destiny 1 would be the color that it actually was inflicting on you. A good example of that would be the Undying Mind shooting a red Aeon Maw blast that actually does void damage instead of solar damage. So things like that would confuse new players and returning players, and a lot of the time it would cause discussion on the internet. The subreddit would alight with arguments, heated netbeard argumenting over, he's shooting red, but it actually does purple damage and things like that. Now you can actually tell what's going on based on the coloration of the boss. And I don't assume that every boss in the game is gonna, share that trait specifically. I don't expect, a fallen, like a captain to, change the color of his eyes or change the color of his cape every time he switches energy types if we do fight some kind of, like, large captain at some point. But I do think it's a nice thing for the Vex to do, because the Vex's energy types have always been kind of confusing when it comes to what their damage is. Now, speaking more to the boss in that strike boss is very, very interesting. I do really like how they managed to make that strike feel like you were really fighting the boss and not fighting the ads. Through all of Destiny 1, you pretty much always had to deal with the ads being what was really the problem in a strike boss, and not the boss itself. You ended up having a strike boss that was basically a giant pinata, full of health, a big bubble of health, and then you had to deal with all the ads surrounding them throughout the strike being obnoxious as shit. This one is less so. This one feels like the ads are there to help the boss and help give you something to shoot at if you need ammo or something, and do give you a bit of challenge, but they don't take away from the fact that the boss is the focus of the strike. Moving the strike down through, 3 sections, every section having its own element type, every section being built in a specific way to kind of match up with the energy type. That kind of stuff is very interesting. The only part of that strike that is kind of hectic is the very last part of it, where he becomes headless and all the fanatics start spawning. Because a lot of people have trouble figuring out how to deal with fanatics and how to deal with that. People panic and don't do what they should. But that's fine. I'm sure when the full release is out, they will figure out how they need to deal with that. You know, I've already had people AFKing in strikes, people idling in strikes, people griefing in strikes, and it's only the beta. But I'm not gonna base my entire assumption on the full release game based on a couple, you know, shitters that are in the beta. And that was mostly after it went released to the public, so I'm assuming those are not people that usually play Destiny that were being assholes about it. The drill section where the big drill bits are going by and everyone freaks out, that's interesting because the Scions now have one of their void energy abilities is they can shoot it at you and then knock you up into the sky, which throws you into the drill bits, which is actually pretty fantastic. The Scions are actually one of my favorite new things in Destiny 2. I really like what they did with the Scions. They might be my favorite thing to fight now, because not only are they like really easy to kill, and they're small and they're normal enough enemies, and they're really easy to actually kill, but they have so many different things that they can do. You know, the Scions now, they have, you know, a shoulder-mounted rocket pack for if you're too far away. They have a regular, like, rifle for when you're too close. If you mess with them and they're of a certain energy type, you know, they can hit you with, like, a solar thing, or they can shoot, like, a void blast at you. They have, like, seeking mines, and, you know, they have, like, a jetpack for running along the ground. They're such an interesting enemy now. And it's fascinating how they managed to make Scions, which used to be pretty cut and dry, boring, you know, just spamming arc blasts along the ground and making arc burn a living hell. You know, how they made that into something that was fun to fight. And I will honestly say that the Scions are fun to fight. A lot of the Cabal are fun to fight. You know, aside from, like, the Gladiators, which can kind of get a little bit annoying. I personally hate enemies that just jump into your face and keep stunning you backwards or keep knocking you out of the way. And that's what the Gladiators kind of do. Think Stalkers from Borderlands 2, things like that. I hate enemies like that, but the Gladiators never really felt like they were overwhelmingly in your face. They have a nice balance of, you know, they'll get in your face for a little bit and then they'll kind of like run around a little bit. And, you know, they never really felt like they were being super obnoxious. They always felt like, you know, they had a nice balance to their AI pathing and stuff like that. I enjoy that kind of stuff, and it's been pretty fun messing with it. Overall, that strike, in length, in, you know, amount of quality of the areas in it, things like that, I really like it. If that's an indication of what we're going to get in the full game, then I'm excited. You know, if that is the Sepiks of Destiny 1, then we can only go up from there. Because Sepiks was actually one of the easier, more simple strikes, and if Protheon is one of the easier, more simple strikes, then I can only imagine what they can do when they make things more complicated. Kat and I were talking about this as we were running through strikes yesterday, looking for armor and things. He was saying that, you know, he thinks that will be like the Sepik strike, and I was saying that it might be more like the Nexus Mind. You know, something along with, you know, Sekrion, rather than, you know, a Sepik, because Sekrion was a little bit more complicated, you know. Nexus Mind Year 1, he has, like, the rotating shield and things like that. It required more verticality, it required more ad control. Required, you know, very careful camping and not getting boned by the Minotaur in the back of the room, that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping it's more of a Nexus strike, kind of like a middle of the road. You know, there might be easier strikes, there might be harder strikes. That's a good indication of what we're going to get, though, and I'm happy about that. So all in all, I really like the Inverted Spire. I like the variance of enemy types, I like the variance of areas, the amount of, like, movement you do. You actually feel like you're making progress every time you go into an area. I like because you're not stopping all the time. You're not, you know, like I said, you're not opening doors every 10 feet. You're not waiting for something to load. You're not waiting for a bridge to form. You're really just kind of going at your own pace. The only parts of it that have any kind of waiting are very small segments after you've killed a large group of enemies, which give you a nice, you know, break from what you've just done. Specifically, the very beginning, when you walk in, you have a bunch of Vex and a bunch of Cabal to fight. As soon as they're all dead, you can open, you know, the path forward. And it gives you a little reprieve from what you've just done, which is actually very nice, and I like how they balance that. The balance between action and breaks in the strike is very well done. And overall, right now, I like the strike a lot. Mainly because I'm biased towards Vex content, but overall, the strike is pretty much freaking fantastic. I don't have any videos of me playing Crucible. We did play a lot of Crucible the other day. I played a lot of it on my own. I'll briefly go over PvP because I'm not a PvP player. It's not my preferred section of content, so I'm not going to speak to it heavily. From what I could play of it, the couple hours I played of competitive and quick play, I like the time to kill. I really enjoy how much slower the game is. It feels more like an older shooter like Halo, like the olden days Halo. even up to like Halo 4, which didn't have that great of multiplayer, but the time to kill was high enough to where it felt like you could do something if someone was shooting you. You never really felt out of place. You never felt like you were getting stuck. I will say that getting shotgun charged by Titans is still, like, it still triggers like a PTSD every time it happens, but it's rare because heavy ammo, or power ammo, is single person. So if one person on your team has a really good heavy weapon or power weapon, or they just happen to get there when it spawns, then you only have to worry about the one person with power ammo and not the entire team coming after you with shotguns loaded or, rocket launchers, things like that. I like, speaking of the power weapons and the energy weapons, let's stick on Crucible for, I'm gonna get sidetracked if I switch gears here. But the last couple things for Crucible, I like the time to kill, I like how slow it is, I like how much more tactical the engagements are. It feels like you actually have to think about what you're doing. You actually have to like practice. You actually have to go in with like at least one other person. You can do it solo, it's fine, but it's a lot more like luck of the draw if you get a team that you can actually beat. Things like that. Competitive is fun. The search and destroy game mode is pretty interesting. It requires a lot of focus and a lot of team cooperation, which I do like. Quick play. Control is interesting. I don't really know how the scoring works in Control still. I couldn't figure it out yesterday with Cat's help. But I do like how it plays. My biggest thing about Control is you don't have to neutralize the flag, you just capture it, which is pretty nice. I do enjoy that a lot. But overall, the weapons and how they feel in the Crucible are well done. They're very nice. And my biggest thing is I like the time to kill. That I like that being longer. I like the guns being, slower. And I don't know if that's because we have, basic bitch weapons right now. We're using like, Koshtovs and blues and greens from Destiny 1, and we're thinking that they're legendaries, because they are legendaries in this game, but maybe that's just like an aesthetic thing. Maybe they're just telling us they're purple, but in the end of the game, they'll be, blues and greens. I don't know if we're using just low-level gear. I can't imagine we are. We're 200 light. So if this is an indication of how Crucible will be roughly at endgame, I'm happy with it. The weapon variance is pretty nice. Everyone kind of settles into the pulse rifle meta again because it's the comfortable choice because of how Destiny 1 was. But overall, I like the Crucible. Control's fun, the maps are fun, the power ammo economy is pretty interesting. I like that you only have one person that can pick it up. If they pick up both, that's fine, but I like how difficult it is to get power ammo and how limited it is in the match. It really keeps you to your kinetic and energy weapons, which themselves have enough variance to keep you interested in what's going on in the fight. You never feel like you're without a gun you need. You can always have like a long range and short range weapon, an SMG and a scout, things like that. It makes Crucible enjoyable, and I see myself playing a lot more of it in Destiny 2 if that's an indication of what's going on. Let's talk about mechanics though really quickly, because you've seen me jumping up here and mantling this short wall here a couple times. The mantling mechanic to catch yourself on short, on just about to miss the fall things, I like it. I can see that being something that gets abused when the people are trying to escape maps, trying to like get to areas they're not supposed to get. But I also see that coming into play during things like raids or strikes where you have to make a jump that you might not be able to. It's also very good because that makes it so you can kind of build your character not necessarily into full mobility. You could be a Titan with full resilience, and if your jump is just short of a ledge, you can climb yourself. You can mantle that cover and get to where you need to be instead of having to, go into your subclass menu and switch to higher agility like you would in Destiny 1, or go into your inventory and switch to higher mobility armor like you would in Destiny 2. That gives you an ability to play the game how you want without having to go into your menu. You're playing the game more and micromanaging less, which is very nice, and I enjoy that thoroughly. Speaking to kinetic and energy weapons and power weapons outside the Crucible, I like the systems in place. I like the way it feels to have, you have a power weapon that's really good. You've got your, I found this when I was playing the Crucible, this linear fusion rifle, which is really fantastic. It's basically a Queenbreaker's bow, and it's awesome. If you get a headshot, it's an insta-kill, a body shot rips shields and some health. So it's not incredibly strong on a body shot, but a headshot is fantastic. But aside from that, let's look at the inventory for a minute so I can get some ideas of what I want to talk about here. You've got your kinetic weapons, you got your scouts, your hand cannons, your pulses. Apparently you can get kinetic sidearms as your primary, which is pretty interesting too. Then you have your power weapons, which are, every other thing from your... So you have like two primary slots, one elemental, one not. And then you have your power slot, which used to be your heavy slot. This covers things like grenade launchers, which are new, sniper rifles, shotguns, fusion rifles, linear fusion rifles, etc. SMGs are actually my new favorite and Cat's new favorite weapon type in the game. We really enjoy how they play and how they feel. They're super fun. Quick tip, if you didn't notice this, if you are playing the beta before it shuts off later today, if you crouch when you're shooting your weapon, you get increased accuracy and reduced weapon sway. I was thinking it was a placebo effect at first, until I just kept doing it, and it was noticeably different. If you're using something like the auto rifle I have in my back, which I'm sure most people have tried, the Scathlock, if you shoot this thing while standing, it's a little bit, unruly. If you crouch, it becomes noticeably more accurate. And this worked with pretty much every weapon I tried. So if you're hurting to get some increased accuracy, go ahead and crouch with your weaponry, and it'll boost that accuracy and reduce weapons away. Pretty interesting little inherent mechanic, kind of like mantling cover. Overall, my thoughts on the beta are it's pretty good. For what it is, I like it a lot. As an indication of what Destiny 2 will be, I'm excited. I'm a little worried about some things, like the ammo economy is a little harsh. Things like that can be tweaked a little bit. But those are things that Bungie already knew going into the beta. Anyone who's read their, like, we already knew about these problems, but please tell us what you think article, they talked about how in internal testing that they had issues with ammo economy as well. So going into the beta, they already knew that was a problem, and they already knew they needed to fix it, which is good. I'm glad that they know that they need to fix something before the players tell them they need to fix something. Also, the grass moves when you walk through, which is like, that in of itself is worth whatever I'm paying for this game. I think my favorite part of the Voidwalker right now is the fact you can overcharge grenades to make them stronger by sapping some of your super energy into making your grenade more powerful. That is fantastic, and I love it. The new Nova Bomb is interesting. I'll be interested to see how that works. The tree that I'm in, the tree that's in the beta, the Attunement of Chaos, is the attunement slot that I will be using throughout the game, because that's how I like to play Voidwalker. I'm not a huge fan of how slow Nova Bomb is now, but the fact that you can shoot the Nova Bomb when it's traveling, and you can blow it up prematurely and, detonate it above areas and stuff is really, really cool. It reminds me a lot of the Death Trap ability from Borderlands 2 that Gage has. If you've got your points spent to a certain tree, Death Trap will shoot a giant lightning ball slowly at enemies that you can shoot at any point in time, and it will blow up and electrocute things nearby. That reminds me a lot of what happens with the Nova Bomb. You can throw it, it'll heat seek, and when it gets close, if you want to detonate it prematurely, you can do that, and it's pretty fantastic. The Pole Dancer, the Arc Strider, is pretty neat too, being able to tumble near enemies and then having, increased arc damage, and splash waves, jumping up and slamming down with the pole, just being super nimble. Cat loves the Arc Strider now, or the Pole Dancer, so that's pretty fun. They fixed Arc Blade and made it something more useful. The Sentinel, the new Void subclass, having both the shield and the Ward of Dawn available in its current attunement area is pretty cool. Depending on what you need at the time, you can throw a bubble down to res a teammate, or use the shield to go in and attack. That stuff is cool. It feels like the subclasses are a lot more involved this time around. It feels like you can actually do what you want to do with it, and it feels like your customization comes down to how you play the game specifically, like your play style comes down to it. They took out all of the garbage perks, left in all of the good things, so now you never have to worry about that guy in your raid group picking, the shit in their subclass menu not being helpful. You pretty much know that if they pick something, it's going to be useful in some way. You don't have to worry about somebody being, tuned into like Angel of Light instead of Viking Funeral or something like that. It's nice. I like that. It's good. It simplifies things for people. And it makes the game, it keeps the developer focus out of the subclass menu as heavily and keeps you into what really matters, which is the gameplay. You don't have to balance everything around 1,000 different combinations. You balance them around 10, and then the game itself can be better because it simplifies the entire formula. So I'm very excited about what's going to happen with Destiny 2 because of that. So I'm going to keep wandering around the social space, go talk to some people and see what they think about the beta. I've been invited to many parties since I've been in the social space. So I'm going to go discuss with some other Destiny people what's going on. And overall, my thoughts, good. Homecoming was good. I look forward to what's going on with that. The exotics so far have been interesting. The Risk Runner I love, and the Sunshot or whatever the Hunter gets I love as well. Those two are really fun. I'm still not a huge fan of the Titan, like the movement on them, the subclass options, that kind of thing. I'm still not a huge fan of how the Titan is, but I've never really been a huge fan of the Titan outside of, Defender Titan with, weapons of Light Ward of Dawn, but having an empowerment rift on a Warlock makes it so I can do that myself, which is super cool, because Kat and I can can go through a strike empowerment rift and just decimate everything. We can just two-man everything now, which is super fun. I love it. I love the rifts, I love the dodging, I love the wall for the Titans, pretty useful too. That kind of stuff, the class traits, as they're called. Overall, everything is pretty nice. Like I said, there are some complaints, weapon economy, some balancing issues, some weapon tuning, some strength here and there. Just some kind of pacing stuff. Pretty much everything Reddit's been saying is what I would also agree with for the most part. They're complaining about some stuff that I don't have a problem with, but I would say that they need to work on the dialogue for Ghost in Strikes. If the Inverted Spire is any indication, the dialogue in that was at best cringy and unfunny. The Ghost dialogue specifically was terrible, so if they can find a way to make it not like that in the full game, I'll be happy. But overall, that's pretty much it, and that was really all I really had to say about it. Inverted Spire was fun, had a good balance of everything, I enjoyed it. The lore behind it's pretty interesting. I wish the Ghost would shut the fuck up about, cringy meme comments and would just talk about, information about what's going on, as opposed to trying to be funny and stupid. Campaign mission was interesting and good. I liked how they set up the campaign from that mission, and Crucible is actually pretty nice now with the much slower time to kill and the ability to vary your weapon types with the kinetic energy and power weapons. So I'm happy to see what they do with the full game. I hope you guys got to enjoy the farm while I wandered around. If you weren't able to, check it out on your own. Otherwise, I hope you guys had fun in the beta if you managed to get access to it and try it for a little bit. I'll be maining Warlock, as always, on the Destiny 2 full release. Kat will be playing Hunter. We will be doing co-op nonsense starting the day it comes out, hopefully. All in all, that's going to be it from me. Hope you guys liked the beta. Hope this little video was helpful and interesting if you care. And I will see you guys next time. I'll see you guys in Destiny is when it comes out. So, it's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see stuff more from me, solo and co-op, links in the description and things at the end of the video. Like all that kind of nonsense, doing Dark Souls, other stuff. So, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, very much appreciated. And, as always, until next time.